In this video, you're gonna learn what to do and what not to do when applying for a worship pastor position. You're gonna hear from my friend Josh Shaw. He's a lead pastor currently searching for a worship pastor for his church. So keep watching this video because you're gonna learn how to improve your chances of landing that worship pastor position. This video is brought to you by Lead Worship with Ableton, a free training to help you get started with the #1 worship leading software. With Ableton Live, you can run a click, backing tracks, and automate lyrics and lighting. It's the best tool for increasing excellence and eliminating distracting mistakes in worship. Click the link in the description to enroll in the free training today. My name is Jake Gosling with ChurchFront.com, an online resource for innovative and creative church leaders. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you can continue to receive all of our latest content to help you grow yourself and grow your church. And be sure to check out the show notes below this video so you can take advantage of our free tools and resources for your worship ministry. So I'm here today with my friend Josh Shaw. He is the lead pastor at Lighthouse Church, located here in Lakewood, Colorado. It's a very hot and sunny day today, and you guys are a young church plant, but you're meeting in an older church building that doesn't really have AC quite yet.
That's
so
like in like two of the rooms it has AC.
Yeah.
But not the one that we're in currently.
Yeah, the ones that matter. This is kind of the best like lighting setup we could figure out for this.
Yeah.
But hashtag church plant life, right?
Yeah. Hashtag you should donate to our church. That'd be great. Thanks.
Lighthousechurch.tv. But I wanted to meet up with Josh, have a conversation with him, and share this with you guys so that you can understand what it's like for a lead pastor of a church or whoever's responsible for hiring at a church to go about the hiring process for a worship pastor, worship leader, worship director, whatever you want to call it. Josh, tell us about your current situation and maybe a little bit of a recap too of just the church in general, because you're still a young church, but you already need a full-time worship pastor.
So we started Lighthouse 3 years ago, and our ultimate kind of goal was always to like actually become a self-sustaining, vibrant church. But in the process of planting the church, we did a much more organic model. So we started with a small group in our house, let that grow to like 20 or 30, moved into a warehouse, let that grow to about 40, 45, eventually moved into a high school. The high school was way too big for what we wanted to do. There's some components that we knew that we needed to be in a different location for where we were as a church. And so a year ago, so this would have been almost 2 years into being a church plant, we ended up discovering the building we're in currently. And it was a church, it was a Presbyterian denominational church that was not doing well, so they ended up dying. And then one of their kind of final wishes was that a young, vibrant church would move in. And so we moved in. The building, it sounds like, I think a lot of people when they hear our story of moving into this building, they think we're the luckiest people in the world. But the funny thing is that the building was like an absolute wreck. So when we came in, actually that very first video that we ever filmed in here, there was hail damage.
I'll put a card for that video somewhere here.
There was hail damage all throughout the building because all of the windows in the building had been completely destroyed by like a crazy freak hailstorm last May. And so carpet was ruined and paint was destroyed, and Sanctuary had literally no stage. It had old, disgusting pews. I mean, everything, like, everybody wants a building until you realize that like the immense amount of work that it takes to like bring, like, it's not an empty King Soopers or like wherever you're at in the country, Kroger's thing. Like, this thing needed a ton of work. So we moved in. We were about 100 people or so at that time, and since then we've grown to over 400 people.
Wow.
At the church. And summer months are obviously a little weird with Colorado, so the last couple, like the last month has been obviously down because of that. But the people worshiping and attending at the church is on average about 400, and so that's like a weird, just kind of 3-year-old church plant, almost 400 plus people. That's odd. We function still like a church plant. We're poor as crap. We function 99.9% of the time on volunteers. You're always asking the question, how can we do that but do it in a way that's cheap and scaled back, because you just don't have that capacity, like our internal giving is equal to what a church of 160 is.
Okay.
But we're a church of 400, right? So that's the component, like the weirdness of being the church that we are.
Yeah.
But as we've grown, this pressing need for staff has come up. So in any church plant scenario, if you're not like funded by like the Giga Church down the road, you have to staff like with this weird balance in mind where you're staffing for expected growth, but then you're also staffing for what's realistic in your budget, and you have to take risks. And it's super frustrating because you don't know if in 6 months from now all those new people are going to start giving, or if they're going to leave, and because they're so new to the church. So it's a lot of weird dynamics. So we've been on this interesting prowl of 8 months ago. We knew our worship leader was going to get married and move, and so we started this kind of relational process of looking at people because we have connections to like you and to other people in the city. Our first goal was we need to start just looking at friends and family to lead the worship ministry, and realizing that wasn't bringing back candidates that we were interested in, or just didn't bring back who would fit us. Then we did the whole posting stuff online part, and still looking around, and then we did like the kind of big national search piece. But all of that's been like this weird process. So church has grown, looking now, finances might not be there, but we have to do it because we need the staff. We need a full-time worship pastor because our ministry is growing so fast. So yeah.
What I think is going to be most beneficial for the folks watching, and a lot of you guys I know are worship leaders, some of you are tech directors, maybe some of you are in a place where you're volunteering at your church, and someday you'd like to be in a paid vocational ministry. So I want you to share with us what it's been like from the perspective of a pastor now, like going through these applications and discerning who's going to be the right fit for this position. And maybe kind of a fun way to talk about this is like, maybe we can title this video like, here's how not to get hired as a worship pastor, right? Because I feel like you probably have seen so many applications, and you've probably seen a lot of things that, really quickly you're like, this is not the candidate we want. So, maybe without like saying anything about confidential information of people, like who applied or whatever, maybe we could just walk through some of the things you see happening in worship leaders wanting a job that as a pastor you're like,
So, well, I think I'll before we get into what I would call the America's Got Talent syndrome of worship leading, which is we'll talk about that. It sounds harsh, and it kind of is, but it's good.
Josh doesn't hold back any truth. So.
So you're gonna get raw. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but what I wanted to talk about really quick is that from my perspective, the senior pastor or the pastoral committee or whoever's searching for a worship pastor, because usually churches are searching for a worship pastor because they're either growing like crazy, and so they want that next level leader, or they're going through a transition where they had a leader and now they're kind of trying to replicate that same leader. Or they're desperately in need of like some new life in their church. Like they think that if we hire a young worship leader, maybe it's an older church that's struggling. So that's usually
been there, done that.
Yeah, that's the world that like most of these pastors are living in. Every single senior pastor who's looking to hire genuinely believes they're going to find like the Michael Jordan of the draft. Like every single one of us is like, all right, like we're going to put our feelers out. We're the greatest church in the world, so everybody's like, we're gonna get like the greatest candidates ever, and we're gonna find the next Michael Jordan. Like we're gonna find the next Joel Houston or whatever. Like they're just like this mind. And I had that. Everybody I meet is like, because YouTube's available, and you've got like you're like, oh man, like, well, if Elevation Worship has like 27,000 good singers, like I'm sure we can find like one. Like how hard is it to find one, right? So we go into this mindset really looking for like the cream of the crop, the best that we could possibly find. And different values mean different. Like we're looking for someone who also has like a theological bone in their body because we're theologically driven. That may not be a core value of other pastors, but we're looking for our ideal candidate, and which makes this process frustrating because now going into some of the things that some of the things not to do is that the people who present themselves, like when you send resumes or when they send videos or when they send emails even or text messages, which blows my mind that someone would do that. Well, and we can get to that in a bit. They don't present themselves in any way, shape, or form like they're ready for the draft. You know what I mean? Like I think of like the NFL draft. I'm a big NFL fan. Like these guys prep from the day they're done with their season until the day of the draft, like to almost like manipulate the teams into thinking they're like this primo athlete. Like even the guys who like don't have good work discipline, the guys that kind of have a tendency to be chunky, those guys like lose weight, get fit, work on their like long jump, and then in the draft they woo people.
Yeah.
And it's like the funniest thing in the world is that in the worship world, none of that happens. There's no like prepping to be a great candidate, like, and I know that sounds really awful because you may be the person who's prepped yourself, but 99.9% of the people that we've experienced so far did not take into consideration that we were looking for a premium candidate. They just kind of,
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons we could talk about those, but so it's a very interesting world. Just jumping in for the very first time in the life of our church, we realized that it was going to be much harder than just like picking from the first round. Like, you're on our team now, thanks, kind of a thing. So
yeah, it's kind of one of the things I find discouraging and like frustrating. There's a lot of that attitude. I think within churches, and maybe I've like done this myself, but the most part it's like that. It's not a big deal. Like if I want to apply for this church, like I'll just scratch out my latest resume and make an iPhone recording and send it over.
Pretty much, yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe that's just like a larger issue of like
there's a
just
balance.
lack of like actually trying. I don't know.
Right? Yeah, it's weird because you want them to be authentic to who they are. So if they're at a church that maybe doesn't have the technology, so like for you guys, like if you're at a church and you don't have like the latest 4K camera with multi-track recording, and like you're like, hey, like I'm only going to be able to post like a video, like my phone in the back of the sanctuary with a raw left-right stereo out into my camera, that's at least an attempt at trying.
Yeah.
We didn't even get that for I would say 95% of the applicants.
And is this from, so where are these applicants coming from? Is this from, because I know you put the job on churchstaffing.com. Is it a lot of random ones?
Which was not good.
Okay.
Sorry. Total waste.
Yeah, well that's what,
so
tell me about like how you're even interacting with these people.
Yeah. So we posted a video on Facebook and boosted that to every single person in the country who was interested in worship leading. We actually found that was very odd because I don't think, we actually have a candidate currently that saw that video and almost was kind of like weirded out by it because he had never seen a church hire in that strategy. We're like all over Facebook, and I mean, that's our world. We don't do any traditional marketing. And so I just thought, let's just do something that no one else does. But I realized that we were like the first church that any of these people had ever seen doing that, and it freaked them out. And we built a dedicated landing page for our applicants, like with a video from me. It was super weird. So we bit the bullet.
But as someone who would be a prospective candidate, I would see that, and first I would be like, oh wow, a church is like using technology. What a miracle. And then second I'd be like, wow, this church actually cares about this position this much. That instead of just being like, oh, let's just post it on church staffing, or let's hire some outside search firm and pay them tens of thousands of dollars to find someone who might work. Oh, there's these amazing tools we have today to find people, like, because you can go on Facebook, make an ad, search for worship leaders or whatever, and you can run ads. I do it all the time for Churchfront.
Totally. So in theory, it should have got us great candidates, but what we discovered was that all the candidates who loved that were already at churches who were super awesome. So like down the road, I was actually talking with a couple guys at Red Rocks Church here, and some of their worship pastors, and they saw the ad. They're like, dude, this is awesome. We'll talk with a couple people. But the people they were already talking to were at churches that type of technology was not abnormal.
Yeah.
So they were like, this is awesome. You should totally do that. And they're
Yeah.
like, but I'm not like leaving my church to go to that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, so
Yeah.
there's this weird disparity of people who love that have already found a home in really great churches who are not afraid of technology.
Yeah.
We're this weird 400 member church plant who's growing fast,
Yeah.
who in 5 years we could be 1,000, in 5 years we could be 5,000 for all we know, but we're not at that like, we're not at that place where like we have this clout that like
Yeah.
someone would be willing to move across the country from one great church to another to,
Yeah.
you know, so yeah, it was great, but the response was we didn't get many applicants that were of that caliber, and so what we ended up doing next stage was we posted it on churchstaffing.com, which they charge $350 a month
Wow.
just to have it on their page.
Okay.
That's it. A description of this thing, and then they say the benefit is that the moment that it is posted, then every single person who's like a desiring a job kind of candidate, like an individual that has put their data or into churchstaffing.com, like their resume and their information, they will all get an email the moment you post your job, and then they will be able to like instantly apply if they want to. The problem with that is that the reason why church staffing has such a large database is because the pool is not good. So there's like, we got, I would say, the first 4 hours of posting church staffing website. We posted our job description, we posted the expectations, we posted personality, we posted that we have very strong theological convictions as a church on we're charismatic, we're Anabaptist, and then we had 4 required things that they needed to send us. It was a video of you leading on a Sunday, a video of you leading with your primary instrument, like alone, because we know that Sunday, like in the world that we live in, we do a lot of multi-track recording. I can make anybody sound good with a pitch correction, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
my goal was I want raw in your room.
Yeah.
And then we had, we need a video of you singing a song that you're writing on the spot, something spontaneous. And then you had to send all that, including your resume and a couple other things. Within 4 hours, we probably got 95 resumes. None of them had what we requested.
Yeah.
They were just the average Joe worship leader who more than not wasn't even working at a church. They're like, their ambition is they feel called to be at a church, and they literally just pressed a button that said send resume. And you got this generic, I'm interested, here's my stuff.
Yeah.
Let me know if you need more.
Yeah. So I think that's a
I was
good
just like, what are you doing?
a good point right there. It's like if you are applying for a position somewhere, even if it is through churchstaffing.com, just what Josh just said, how many people just press the button and say send resume? Because you know, it's like I still think it's that platform provides a valid service, and like I think it can be great.
It could be,
so
yeah.
long as the participants
Oh my gosh, yeah.
actually follow directions. So
And we have a couple candidates that we got from church staffing
Yeah.
that actually just did what we said.
Yeah.
And they, just by the sheer fact that they did what we asked, they became a non-deleted email.
Yeah.
So all the rest of them I just delete, because it was just like, well, you're not even, if you can't follow a simple direction of sending me the correct videos,
Yeah.
then like when I tell you to do something on a Tuesday afternoon in the offices, are you going to do it? I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
not to knock, like the service itself has a high capacity to be a great service. The bummer is that there's a lot of not high capacity individuals
Yeah.
who, like in any other world,
Yeah.
also wouldn't get hired with that type of an approach. You know, like
Yeah.
Apple wouldn't hire you if you just sent that. Let me know if you're interested. It's
Yeah.
like they'd be like, no, we don't do that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like,
Well, yeah, and
so-
it's that very common
Yeah.
trade-off we find in a lot of other ways, or a lot of other scenarios where you get because there's a quantity of people you can connect with that platform.
Yep.
Usually the quality is going to be lower. You know, whereas maybe doing word of mouth networking
Yep.
to try to find someone, it's a lot lower
Well,
quantity.
and even what are they called? They're basically like headhunters for the Christian
Yeah.
world. You know, they take percentages. They take like
Yeah.
upwards of 33% for the total salary
First year
package
salary or whatever, yeah.
But they've got a database of some pretty high caliber individuals.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, you know, which one am I willing to do? You know, and so we understand that. But that was, you know, the steps: websites, landing page, Facebook, and then church staffing. And then we instantly realized, I think we made a mistake. I wonder if we should have spent our money elsewhere in finding different ways to attract candidates. But that was hard. It was frustrating because it was like trying to find a needle in a haystack. And like, even talking to you guys, like, there's a component of, like, there was a lack of research from people applying to our church. Like, even the ones that, so our goal was, we had our big pool, which was our email pool, which everybody sent an email to this one email. And if you didn't send it to that email, there was an instant delete. So if somehow someone found my personal email and they started sending me stuff, I deleted it right away. So I was like, that's not what we asked. I was getting text messages from people, which the only way that I could figure out how that was happening is that they were Googling my name and then somehow found me on like some like local news page. No, nothing. No,
or
and
the
so
job posting.
no. So I'm getting email. I got a text message one time at 12:30 at night. So I woke up the next morning at 6:30 with my boys, and it said, "Hey, I'm interested. What do I need to do?" Didn't have a name. It didn't, nothing. And I was like, and I kind of went into it. I was like, who is this? And they gave me their first name, and I was like, go to the website. That's all I said. And then they go, well, where's the website? And I was just like, I can't believe that you think that you're like, this is, and I know it sounds like really hard. Like, I sound kind of like a jerk right now, but I'm just like, I'm willing to spend a lot of money to move you to Denver, one of the most expensive cities in the country, give you a full-time salary with benefits, find housing for you, and literally give you the freedom to just go crazy on an incredibly fun worship ministry. And you're sending me a text going, where's the website? It's just like, oh, how do you not see? So what we ended up doing, this is really sad, day 3 on Church Staffing's website, we went back into our job posting and edited it, and we actually at the very end put a titled thing, and it says honesty evaluation. And we put 4 links to videos that our churches produced from our worship team. And one of them was like an album we recorded, one of them was live video, one of them, you know, a couple things. And we just said, if you, we expect that all of our candidates watch these videos, and if you feel that your abilities are not up to par with the standard we already have, please do not send us a resume. And it was just kind of just saying, be honest. Like, there are churches that their expectations aren't as high as ours, and they may get hired from those churches, but we have such a high expectation of excellence that it was very disheartening to see people like, that in my opinion, this was the American Idol kind of syndrome, like, no one told them they weren't good throughout their whole life. And they're sending these resumes, and they can't even, like, they can barely sing. And you're like, oh, it's so, and I don't want to be the person to tell you that you can't sing. So that was a ramble, sorry.
Well, I think this is really helpful, again, for folks who, I wish I would have heard more from pastors' perspectives before I went about applying for worship positions. And I think for those of you watching or listening, you can kind of hear this, and it's like, you may think, oh, Josh has super high expectations, but of course not. Like, when you think about what's at stake with a full-time position, moving someone, relocating someone to that church, like, it's fair to have these expectations. And I think for some of you who, like, don't mind actually putting in the work to, like, do a good job through an application process, be encouraged that 99% of the people who apply aren't good candidates. Like, you don't have much competition.
Oh man, if you have a good-looking resume with your photo on it, your photo, I want to see you. Like, I want to see your ugly mug, and I want to know what you look like. I want to, you know, I there's just something so personal when your name is John Smith. It's the most generic name. I literally couldn't come up with Jane Doe. Like, I don't know how old you are. I don't know, like, your style. I don't know. There's so many things. And just this simple photo, I'm like, oh, man, okay. Like, I think that, like, they're not 59 years old, and, you know, because our church is young, and that would be really, it would be an interesting, you know, so we were able to, you know, do it. So anyways, you have a resume, and it looks good. And it's like you took more than 5 minutes to make it, and you put your picture on there. And you know, some of the resumes we were very impressed with. There were a couple of people who anticipated our needs before we even knew them. They put their Myers-Briggs on there. They put their Enneagram number. They put their strengths. I was like, oh, this is like, I wasn't even expecting that.
Yeah.
But that's easy. Pay $55 and go do a Myers-Briggs, and now I know you're an extrovert. Now I know that you're intuitive. Now I know that you're perceptive. Now I know that I can or can't work with your personality. So helpful. You know, and then right away, not every church expects the videos that we did. So for anybody who's going to send resumes in, at least provide the links right away.
Yeah.
Like, we got a couple of resumes we were impressed with, but they didn't have any of the videos, and we just deleted it because we were just like, I don't know if it's worth sending another email going, hey, can we get the videos? You know, like, so the people who sent a good-looking resume with their photo, and we were not looking for someone who had a lot of worship history because our church is young. We're not really prioritized with. We're okay with the Michael Jordan who like has never been full-time anywhere. That doesn't really bother us.
Yeah.
Job history, references, or we have to have references. I called everybody's reference before I even called them.
Oh, wow.
So I did not call, show interest, and then call.
Yeah.
I called their bosses or their whoever.
Yep.
And if their bosses didn't know that they were searching, that was a red flag for me. If their pastors were like, oh, I'm really surprised, I would never see them in that capacity. Then that was, you know, so I wanted to kind of jump on it before they knew. Videos, and here's the thing, so this is like encouraging for you guys who actually try. Every single person who sent us a good resume with a video, got a FaceTime phone call within 5 days.
Yeah.
That's also sad because we only had 5 of those.
Wow.
Out of probably 120 total.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, if you just present yourself well, the likelihood of a church at least pursuing a conversation with you it's very high.
Yeah. Totally.
You know, and I hear a lot of worship pastors like, man, I put my application out to 50 churches and never heard back. And I'm like, you know what, I bet I can pinpoint one of the reasons why.
Yeah.
And it's something as simple as just a well-formatted resume.
Yep.
So.
And again, it's not like you're not trying to brag about yourself or make yourself, you know, look like a rock star. It's more has to do with pastors like Josh and other folks hiring are busy people. Yeah. They don't have time to like keep corresponding back and forth. They've laid out the system and the process for you. Just follow those steps, and if you follow them, the chances of you getting another phone call or moving on are just going to be huge. Yeah,
and it's one of those things where you'd be shocked at how many people don't do it, but you are so pleasantly surprised when the person who does do that, because it's usually a testament to their own personality as well. They're a pleasant person. Not once did we have a FaceTime video kind of initial meeting with one of those candidates where I was just completely turned off. I was like, wow, like this person in their kind of wholeness of a human is just good at what they do. And that was really encouraging. A bummer because I was wanting 30, you know, but we had 5, and that's where we went with. So.
Touch on some of the particular competencies and skill sets like you're looking for. Because you can say I'm a worship leader, but I mean, there's a lot of different facets of worship ministry. What were the ones that mattered most?
So we're a little bit odd. If you're coming from a larger church, some of the things that we desired may not relate with what you're looking for or your even skill set, so that's okay. We were looking for someone who is not just a worship leader, but a worship pastor. So our church is growing at such a rapid pace. We need people who are really capable at relational ministry. You know, like I have plenty of friends who are excellent musicians. And I could hire a guitarist who's a great singer who knows Ableton, but there would be such a need in our context of pastoral care, like opening your home up, building relationships with our team. Our church has grown by 400% in a year, which means we have a lot of musicians that have never actually had the chance to be pastored yet in our church. We got 4 drummers on our staff, on our kind of roll, and we need someone who can like take all of them out to go get beers and go bowling and meet and love them. And I can't because I'm still trying to love the other 300 new people. So we were looking for pastoral competency, just like someone who has that capacity level. And if you're a worship leader who doesn't have that, there's nothing wrong with that at all. There's different skill sets. We were kind of looking for the boss of worship leaders, if that makes sense. The guy who's going to care for the worship leaders, the guy or gal who's going to have a vision of ensuring that if this church grows to 5 campuses, all 5 worship leaders are loved incredibly well. They're challenged. So that's what we were looking for. Skill-wise, we have a very good worship team for the size of our church. So we needed someone who is beyond proficient in their instruments. We needed them to be the best musician on stage. Not like I'm the best at everybody's instrument, but they're the best at theirs. Like, so one of our candidates is a piano player and acoustic guitarist. Piano-wise, there isn't anybody even remotely close to how good this candidate is at our church currently. So they can present their skills to our electric guitarist, who's a freak of nature, electric guitarist, and he's going to have a sense of like honor and respect because that person has put energy and effort into their instrument. We want we want a musician, not just an instrumentalist. So, so capacity for your instrument. You know, there's a we were not expecting our candidate to have like complete knowledge of Ableton and ProPresenter and lights right away, mainly because we're only 3 years old. All of us on staff have learned that in the last 3 years. So we're kind of just thinking, it's not hard to learn Ableton. Are you gonna hate your life for 2 weeks? Yep. But
unless if you go through my training.
Unless you pay the $75,000 for
not $75,000.
I'm joking.
No, but you're right. If you had, the more important thing is like you have to have the attitude to be able to learn more.
Well, I remember the very first video you came out with on it, or it was one of your first trainings. You said, when you jumped into it, it was so daunting until like you get it. It's like this weird, Ableton is this weird world where you're like, this program can do so much more than I want it to. And you're like, that's okay. But once you learn what you need to do as a worship leader, like our current worship leader learned Ableton in 1 week. It took her almost 50 hours that week to really kind of like, the next week.
That was me the first week.
The next week, 4 hours.
She didn't use my course, by the way.
No, we try. Yeah. Anyways,
just saying.
I know. I'm the contrarian that doesn't do anything that Jake tells me to do. So,
could have done a lot with like that other, like, I don't know, 48 hours.
Yeah. Seriously, So she went from like a full week to 6 hours. Now every single week it's about 2 hours. That's like we're looking for someone with pastoral competency. We're looking for someone as a musician, because we expect our leader to be able to write music. We want to record. That's what we've always done as a church. And we're looking for someone who has a capacity level to be excellent at the skills. So Proclaim, ProPresenter, lighting, stage design. We don't need them to know all that, but we want them to have a personality where their references say, oh, if you throw them like a job, if you tell them, if you challenge them with like, we want to automate this, they can do that. That's what we were looking for. So one of our candidates hasn't ever worked with Ableton, but their reference said, the reference was another worship pastor, and that reference said, I've done Ableton, it's amazing, and I know that this candidate could learn it in a cinch. And I was like, that's all I need to know, because I can train him. So that's what we were looking for the most part. Willingness to sacrifice. So at a church plant, you know, if someone's coming in, they want the 9-to-5 job, which exists in some churches. We're not that. Like, we're looking for someone who's going to go all in. And so there were a couple candidates that we learned right away that excellent in many ways, but they weren't pastoral, so that knocked them out. One of those candidates is actually a campus worship pastor, worship leader at a church in the Midwest, and it's about 9,000 people, and they're in a perfect scenario because they don't really need that shepherding, skill set right now. So, so that's what we were kind of looking for. We're pretty specific, so you can kind of tell we kind of we only got to 3 candidates at the very end of the whole thing. So, and we're still looking, obviously.
So
haven't hired yet.
They're still looking. I think maybe by the time I publish this video,
who knows?
You might be still looking, or this will be a podcast session as well. So if so, I will make sure I include the link in the description of the podcast or video. If you're a worship leader and and after this past like 30 minutes of listening to Josh, you're like, I want to work with that guy. Then you can go through the application process, and I think you probably have a better inroad now for that than anybody else would. So
well, and even if we already do hire someone, I'm a visionary, right? So we're already planning for our second campus in the end of 2019.
Oh, there you
and
go.
so our goal, because our building only has a capacity to run about 900, we're already almost halfway there. We're going,
Wow.
we need to start thinking down the road. So if you send me something and I love it, I'll keep it and tap on your shoulder in a year from now and go, do you love Denver? Would you love being a part of a really weird, charismatic Anabaptist church? Let's do it, kind of thing.
If it's a Littleton campus,
Oh.
I actually might apply for that
Wow.
position. so
Littleton.
we'll see.
Bring it into the burbs. That'd be fun.
Even though I'm already up in Lakewood.
Yeah.
He's up in Lakewood, which is like a 25-minute drive from
Yeah,
Littleton.
yeah.
But I'm at Mission Lakewood, which is like 5 minutes from here, or 10
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah,
10
totally,
minutes from
yeah,
here.
totally.
Josh, thanks so much. This is super helpful. And guys, check out his church, lighthousechurch.tv, to learn more. Follow their social accounts. I think I have a lot of respect for Josh being a very entrepreneurial, self-starter pastor. I wish there was more of that within the church, and it's cool to see him completely bootstrap a church plant from again, people meeting in your house to now God keeps growing it, and that's really
crazy.
exciting. And we'll keep making videos like this. The last video we did of your gear setup, it went quasi viral. It got over
I still get
25,000
emails.
views.
People are like, teach me your ways. And I'm like, I don't have time. Come to my church on a site, fly out here, and then I'll show you the equipment we spent for 20 grand for a whole sound system. But yeah, totally.
So you heard Josh mention Ableton Live and how that's something that his worship team uses. Make sure you check out my free Ableton Live training that Josh did not check out before he tried using it. If you don't want to spend 50 hours learning Ableton, just go to the link in the description of this podcast or video that says Lead Worship with Ableton. Sign up for that free training. It's going to help you get started with the #1 worship leading software. So thanks so much for watching this video. If you found this helpful, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and share it with your friends in ministry. You can check out some related videos right over here. And don't forget to subscribe to the Churchfront channel so you can continue to receive all of our latest content to help you grow yourself and grow your church.